You might have heard of a Baal Tefillah. That's the person who holds the prayer in a community. And you might have heard of a Baal Kriya, which is the person who really holds the Torah reading in the community. Have you ever heard of a Baal Neginah? A Baal Neginah is the person who holds the song and the music in the community, who really knows all the old songs and knows new songs and knows music generally and can take them all the way from the old streams of song and bring it all the way through and really activate this music in our community and bring us all musically, spiritually alive. There's a river of song, a river of Neginah, that flows through all of our communities and through all of the generations. And that's the river of Jewish soul music. It stretches all the way from the origin streams, which are the old traditional music, all the way out and ends in the ocean of song, where there is no tradition anymore in a sense. It's all just universal music. It's like the shofar. It opens up very wide and resonates throughout the whole world. The saying goes that you can never jump in the same river twice. The water's always moving. And so as soon as we start getting into that river, we realize the music is constantly shifting, and as soon as the community comes in and starts singing, it's like negotiating a very complex current and flow of a river. Let's talk about this in more depth. Every great river starts with many smaller tributary streams, origin streams that trickle down from the hills and mountains. In our river of Neginah, these origin streams carry all of our traditional music, all of our prayers, and all of our stories. One of these streams consists of songs. Here we study Nigunim, our spiritual melodies, and we study psalms, mirot, and piyutim, which are variations of old prayer songs and poetic songs. We also study traditional prayers from our ancestors, all of our ancient tefillot, alongside the nusach, or the traditional musical motifs through which the prayers come alive. Instruments, too, had a huge role in ancient Jewish life, and we have to study how to play instruments as part of any holistic Jewish music-making process. Finally, a significant origin stream of the river of song that we need to study comes from the stories and the teachings and the dreams, all of these things that come from the musical dreamscapes of the Jewish sages and the old storytellers. All of these form just the first phase of the river of song. This is the phase of studying the basics, and it corresponds to the Torah study level of Pshat, simply learning the traditional foundational material and what it means. But the main action here is studying and channeling. It means repeating and repeating and repeating old melodies, traditional prayer motifs, instrumental fingerings, and stories for years until they are literally in our kishkes, in our guts. When we do that, we are inhabiting the old songs until we become, in a sense, unself-conscious mouthpieces for the older traditions. We just open our mouth, without even thinking something comes out that is traditional. We're just bringing the bone structure of the past back to life. And this is all just the beginning, just the water gathering in the hills. But the water can't stay trapped. It has to start flowing, and it always goes down. This brings us to what I call the currents of the river of song, where the origin streams come together and begin to flow downhill. This is where we move from studying the music to fully activating it. It's where your adaptive, in-the-flow skills come alive. When you take a traditional melody out of the learning phase and bring it into a space that's filled with living, breathing people, and you start to sing together, and suddenly everything changes. Suddenly you're dealing with hundreds of variables. You have to navigate group dynamics and communal momentum and read the architecture of the sound in the room. You are observing, assessing, adjusting, and sometimes completely aborting a melody, for example, or restarting it based on the specific energy of the people who are there and what's needed in the moment. This is what it looks like when you grow as a shatz, a prayer leader in your synagogue, or when you facilitate a song circle. You might be singing at a wedding and holding down the beat on a drum while people dance, and you don't really know what's going to happen. This level corresponds to the traditional study level of remez, which means a hint of the divine. When a room full of people, each of whom is deeply complicated, locks into the exact same rhythm or sings a spontaneous harmony, we get a beautiful glimpse of the interconnectedness of all of creation, and we realize that the music is building a bridge between our souls. As the river of song rushes onwards, it eventually crashes into other streams of water and then ultimately absorbs them too. These areas are called confluences or confluence points in the river of song. They take us into the territory of reinterpreting, creatively expanding, and synthesizing different disparate elements of music and spiritual seeking. They match the study level of drash, or seeking, which exists precisely at the boundary line between the tradition that we were handed and the places we need to go next to unpack our own meanings. In this phase of the river, we might find ourselves creating or individuating and ultimately trying to integrate all that is old with all that is emerging in ourselves. This is where you open up your own generativity and put your entire unique self into the mix. For example, we might recompose music for ancient psalms in non-traditional rhythms and melodies. Or we might restart the ancient biblical traditions of musical meditation, but this time using our own modern or even completely original musical styles. Or it's retelling the stories and the teachings of the sages, but filtered through our own contemporary voices, adding in our own interpretations as we go. Every single generation exposes gaps and blanks in the old spiritual forms that we inherited. To fill in those gaps requires immense courage and chutzpah, as we each find our own individual voices and as we unwrap our own chidushim, or our own new ideas, our own compositions, against the beautiful and honestly overwhelming backdrop of the tradition, which sometimes doesn't want us to do new things. In doing so, we don't break the chain of history, we just widen the river. In the end, all rivers reach the same ultimate destination: the ocean, the sea, the Great Lake. This is the level of Sod, the deepest mystical secret of absolute oneness, where everything comes together and, in a sense, also ceases to be. This is the space of releasing, of deep listening, and attuning. Imagine all the purposeful, directional rivers of the world releasing their waters into the great sea. Each river, which had been so focused on its own path, suddenly dissolves into the greater living waters of the totality. At this level, our job is to completely remove ourselves as the centers of expertise or as the centers of leadership or music making. We let go of all of our aspirations for control, and we just let it be and surrender. This is where we experience what I think of as extra hearing. It's that profound sensory sensitivity that we can feel after singing deeply with people for hours, where your ears suddenly pick up every tiny nuance in our surroundings, well beyond what we could hear when we started. Or it's walking out into the woods and realizing with absolute clarity that the birds, the frogs, the wind, and the trees are all singing their own symphony of songs, and that we are lucky enough to be a part of the chorus. It is said that the angels themselves are born anew every day from a roaring cosmic river of fire, where they sing their songs of praise to God, and then at the end of the day, they dissolve back into the river of fire, only to be reborn again afresh the next morning. In the ocean of song, we can feel the raw beauty that emanates from every single culture on Earth, and we can even feel the vibrations of the entire natural world. We aren't trying anymore, we're simply present. And when that happens, the river of song has done its job. It has made us into more sensitive, more spiritually expanded human beings. From the finite technical skills of the mountain tributaries, to the activation energy of the communal currents, to the creative opportunities of the confluence points, and finally into the infinite ocean of the spirit. That is the cycle of Neginah. That is the river of song. So next time you hear a good melody, don't just sit on the riverbank, but jump in and dive deep and enjoy it. If these ideas have resonated with you, click subscribe below. Tell us what you're thinking about. I look forward to singing with you down the line. By the waters of Babylon.
We sang no sacred songs, sang no sacred songs. Our tongues were tied. Whoa, whoa.